All right, we have got a monumental 2 weeks ahead. Anecdotes back in your life. Let's go. It is Monday, October 25th, 2021. And in a matter of hours, not days, hours, I am headed to Miami International Airport, then to Chicago, and eventually Abu Dhabi for UFC 267, Blachowicz versus Teixeira. But of course, before we get there, great to have you with us. It is episode 4 of Anecdotes presented by Draftkings. A lot to get to in the next quarter of an hour or so. We will hit on a number of betting themes, angles for 267. Also, don't forget, new episode of Anecdotes coming up in 6 days, next week for UFC 268. Looking at that card at Madison Square Garden, one of the deepest fight cards in UFC history. Not to be outdone, of course, by UFC 267, which will dominate today's show. But we got 4 title fights in the next 2 weeks. So it is all systems go, a lot to get to. We'll get to your questions in Q&Anik. Take a look at where my NFL action is this week in the futures markets. How much did I make on the Houston Astros? Because you know I'm always betting against my Boston teams, hoping to soften the losses a little bit. And certainly there were a couple of big losses, 3 in a row, actually, to the Houston Astros. And what tickets did I rip up on the other side? Plenty of losers on my ledger over the last week or so as well. Got absolutely killed in the NHL. I don't think I can cuss in this anecdotes format. That's why I said I didn't get absolutely. We'll just leave it at that. Main event mathematics as we get you ready for the headliner at UFC 267. Jan Blachowicz defending his undisputed UFC light heavyweight title against Glover Teixeira. Betting odds on Draftkings Sportsbook right now, Jan Blachowicz about a 3-1 favorite, minus 280. Glover Teixeira comes back, the underdog, plus 225. The propositions are not all out there right now. They'll populate over the course of fight week. I'll have an odds boost for you in the Draftkings Sportsbook. So right now, the proposition that is there for you to play, total rounds, over under 2.5, minus 110 on both sides. I don't know how juicy that is for me either way right now. I might look at an over under 4.5 later in the week, maybe under 4.5. We'll see how it all plays out. But I would not be surprised to see either man get a finish. But some main event mathematics, and we're going to focus largely on Blachowicz today because I think the numbers are pretty wild. Less interesting on the Glover Teixeira side. So Jan Blachowicz is the undisputed king of the light heavyweights right now. He is closed, though, as the betting underdog in 9 of his last 10 fights. He will certainly close as the favorite coming up this weekend. But some numbers previously on Jan Blachowicz. Last fight, first title defense against Israel Adesanya, plus 175 at close, plus 200 when he won the belt against Dominic Reyes last September, slight minus 105 underdog at close for the knockout of Corey Anderson in their rematch. Also cashed as an underdog in wins over Luke Rockhold, Nikita Krylov, Jimmy Manuwa, Jared Cannonier. He was an underdog against Devin Clark in a win. The only guy he has been favored to beat spanning this stretch, Jacare Souza. It was a main event November of 2019. He closed at minus 160. And by the way, he won that goddamn fight too. As for Glover Teixeira, turns 42 on October 28th. 2 days before the fight. So he last fought for the belt, as some of you know, Baltimore, Maryland against John Jones. It was April 26, 2014, UFC 172. And the Teixeira renaissance is certainly remarkable. You know, a lot of people left him for dead a few fights ago, really leaned into the strength and conditioning stuff, 5 consecutive wins, and now he returns to a championship setting with 5 straight wins, closed as a plus 385 underdog against John Jones. Less pronounced this time around, plus 225 right now, as I said, on DraftKings Sportsbook. But we'll see how it goes for Glover Teixeira. Can he cash at this stage of his career? It would be a remarkable win. And I think singularly, one of the biggest wins for an underdog in a championship setting in UFC history. We'll see if the Danbury, Connecticut-based Glover Teixeira can get it done. I actually lived in Danbury, Connecticut for a time when I was working for the Worldwide Leader in Bristol because my girlfriend, now wife, was in Greenwich and I was in Bristol, so Danbury was a midpoint. Put that in your who cares folder if it's not interesting for you. But as you can tell, I'm excited for this main card that is coming up at UFC 267 live from Abu Dhabi this Saturday afternoon. And DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC, has a knockout offer for the light heavyweight title fight. New customers can bet just $5 on either fighter, Jan Blachowicz or Glover Teixeira, and win $200 in free bets if that fighter wins. Will the Polish champion retain his belt, or will the veteran from Brazil snatch it away? As for you, all you need to do, bet $5 on the UFC 267 main event, win $200 in free bets if your fighter wins. And one thing I can assure you, This is not like collecting winnings from like Daniel Cormier or your shady neighbor. DraftKings is safe, secure, reliable. You can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code ANIK, ANIK. Throw down 5 beans on the UFC 267 main event and win $200 in free bets if your fighter wins. That's code ANIK this Saturday, ANIK. At DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of UFC. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. I think I have a gambling solution in a lot of respects, even though it was a forgettable week, at least on the ice for me. College football, I'm just getting smoked this year. My twin brother, who will be on AnikDotes in future episodes, has just encouraged me to take Saturday off. But it was another red Saturday for me in week 7 or week 8, whatever it was, on the college gridiron. All right, time to welcome in the dulcet tones of our producer. He is the esteemed Cody Merrow. It's Q&Anik. We field your thoughtful questions from social media on all things UFC 267. It's at Jon_Anik. Hashtag AnikDotes for future consideration. And feel free, by the way, to fire away, not now, but right now on Twitter if you do have questions for next week's episode in advance of UFC 268, which is just a monster, right? Gaethje Chandler, Namajunas Zhang Lee, Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington to close the show. Is it vaccinated only, Cody, at Madison Square Garden? You live in New Jersey, do you not?
Well, John, I can't say for sure, but I can say episode 4, I'm ready for more. Are you ready?
There you go. That's a good rhyme. All right, what do you got for me, kid?
From PLH JR 1430. If Teixeira wins, does Jan get an immediate rematch? If Sandhagen wins, then what?
All right, so let's start with Jan Blachowicz. Does he get an immediate rematch? There are certainly other light heavyweights lurking. I think Yuri Prochazka, who I think we're going to get to later in the show, chief among them. I wouldn't expect Jan Blachowicz to have immediate rematch language in his contract. Like when we're talking in a week's time, I do believe if Colby Covington beats Kamaru Usman in their rematch, the Nigerian Nightmare Kamaru Usman probably has rematch clause language or a verbal of some kind that he is going to complete that trilogy if it's 1-1 and get a chance for that. But yeah, I think potentially Blachowicz could be next, but I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Prochazka or somebody else against Glover Teixeira. If Sandhagen wins, you ask, then what? So I guess for Corey, right, he becomes the interim champion and he fights Aljamain Sterling in a rematch. He's obviously a pretty big underdog to try to get that done. But yeah, I mean, I think at bantamweight, there are just myriad options, whereas at light heavyweight, there aren't as many obvious options for you there. Was that his whole question? Did I get to all of that, Cody?
John, what's the best fight on the undercard?
Oh, gosh. I mean, the promotion cuts my check, but when I say it's an embarrassment of riches, I mean, we got 9 prelims, bro, 6 on the main card. That gives me a little bit of anxiety. I guess as I look right now, strawweight is probably my favorite division. So Vina Jandiroba and Amanda Hebos is the featured prelim, but Ricardo Ramos taking on Zubaira Tuhugov. All sorts of stuff. A fight, that has second fight of the night, Magomed Mustafayev versus Damir Ismagulov. We're loaded. We're absolutely loaded. Hardest night pronunciation-wise in UFC history, though, so buckle up. All right, Cody, who's next, my man?
Well, I'll certainly be tuning in for the pronunciations, John. The MMA Bulldog asks, can you make an argument for Dan Hooker title fight with a win over Makhachev and vice versa? Hooker and Makhachev would both be fresh faces for the title fight picture.
Well, absolutely, right? And perhaps this viewer, listener, thanks for checking in, by the way, wants me to make a case for either guy. But if Dan Hooker, catches Islam Makhachev with a flying knee on the way in for a takedown attempt this weekend and finishes Islam, who is all the rage at present, of course you can make an argument for Dan Hooker. I also think there are angles for Hooker against both Charles Oliveira and a rematch against Dustin Poirier of an epic fight between those two that happened in June of 2020. And, of course, for Islam Makhachev, after any singular win right now, according to me, and I think most other pundits, experts in the space, I'm not calling myself an expert, we feel like Makhachev is championship worthy right now and would probably be favored against any lightweight in the world. So high stakes, regardless of the actual ranking next to Hooker and Makhachev this weekend.
John, Kid Magic steps up to the scale and says, with the light heavyweight title on the line at UFC 267, do you see a future in this division for Paulo Costa?
Oh, 100%. And a lot of you are ingesting this shortly after Marvin Vettori and Paulo Costa fought in a main event at UFC Fight Night in Las Vegas at 205 pounds, despite the fight being contracted at middleweight. Dana White said after the fight that Paulo Costa's UFC future will be at 205 pounds. So absolutely. And it's a great injection into the division. It's certainly not quite as deep, I guess, in the top 10 with respect to what was once the UFC's glamour division. But yeah, a ton of huge fights for Paulo Costa at 205 pounds. You wouldn't like to see him in a main event against like Alexander Rakic or Anthony Smith. I'm very excited to see that.
Jamie Frodo MMA asks, how will Khamzat look after such a long and difficult bout with COVID, similar to Volkanovski?
Well, I mean, can I say I don't know? I think the big variable for me is that Khamzat Chimaev is not only coming back from a layoff of more than a year after sort of hinting at retirement and dealing with a pretty serious battle with COVID-19 that made him actually think about quitting fighting forever. But this fight is at welterweight. That's the rub for me. That's the variable. It's not at 185 pounds. And when I have been asked about the championship future of Khamzat Chimaev, who looks like one of the best fighters in the world, even though he hasn't fought elite UFC competition yet. I've always said I see his championship trajectory being at 185 pounds because I'm not sure he can consistently make 171, or if he's the champion in title defenses, 170 pounds on the numbers. So I don't know how it's going to go. I think in a lot of respects, it's a favorable matchup against the offensive Li Jingliang. But I really don't know. I think he has 2 fights this weekend, the scale on Friday, and then the fight 24 hours later.
John LXGHTT_ asks,
well, that's a handle right there, huh? I mean, Lex Luthor wasn't available. What's the question?
The producer's earning his money. What are your expectations for Jan versus Sandhagen? Is it a potential fight of the year?
Oh man, there's a lot of competition for fight of the year. We had another entry with Paulo Costa and Marvin Vettori, but yes, as I've tried to sort of handicap and figure out how I think it's going to play out between Corey Sandhagen and Petr Yan, there's just a lot of offense and a lot of potentially destructive, damaging offense on both sides. So I think forced to choose, I would probably go under 4.5 rounds on that fight as well. But I expect it to be epic. And I hate that word epic. It's so overused in the sports vernacular. Impactful is not even a word, and that thing gets used every other minute. But yes, I think the fight on paper between Corey Sandhagen and Petr Yan, even though it's not a pick 'em right now or even close to it, according to Draftkings Sportsbook, I think it could be a fight of the year candidate for sure. And given the stakes, it figures to elevate both fighters. All right, Cody, what do you have? Or is that it?
The last question is from Tornado Fighter. Does Jiří Procházka deserve to fight for the belt next after only 2 UFC fights? While many other fighters took years to get to the top, wouldn't a fight against Alexander Rakic make more sense?
Well, sure, in a lot of respects, right? But has Leon Edwards earned a title fight? I think he has. Has Islam Makhachev, who has 1 pro loss, and it happened in 2015 in like his second UFC fight, earned a title opportunity? I think he has. We've certainly seen other fighters, Brock Lesnar is sort of an outlier, but we've seen plenty of fighters get a championship opportunity fairly quickly. Even Jose Aldo in a different division got a title fight off a loss. So there are circumstances in the fight game, but Jiří Procházka is special. And the way he has handled his first couple of UFC appearances is such that it has been a rapid, expeditious rise. And yeah, I mean, would you like to see a guy be 5 or 6-0 as opposed to just a couple of wins in the UFC? Sure. But if you're asking me right now, when I look at the light heavyweight top 10, do I think he would be worthy to fight the winner of this title fight? Unequivocally, absolutely, irrefutably, yes. All right, rip up your tickets. So it was a forgettable Saturday, as I mentioned, in college football. But how about this number, okay? This is downright embarrassing. First touchdown scorer in the NFL, okay? On Sunday and Monday Night Football right now in this 2021 NFL season, I'm 0-11. Like, maybe I should stop. 0-11 thus far. First touchdown scorer on Sunday and Monday Night Football. And granted, some of these are just $10 bets, but 0-11, like, take a hint, guy. NHL, Vegas Golden Knights, they are 1-3 to begin their season. they've lost 3 straight. I'm doing the stupid Vegas Golden Knights system, and I've been chasing, so I bet on them in all 3 of those losses. Seattle Kraken home opener last Saturday night. And I know better, right? Like, I've been betting on sports almost every day since 1996. I should know when it gets up to like minus 148 against the Vancouver Canucks that they don't deserve that type of respect. But I'm thinking, oh, Seattle Kraken, expansion franchise. They're going to win the home opener. They lost 4-2 and ripped up another ticket. I did make some money on the Houston Astros, about $3,000, because they won 3 straight games. And as you know, I always bet against the Red Sox trying to purchase wins, and it didn't work out this time around. But thematically, in terms of betting on your teams, and we've talked about this a little bit on AnikDotes, certainly on the Anik and Florian podcast, I really don't understand. If your heart is as invested as mine is in the Red Sox, the Patriots, the Celtics, and the Bruins, I know a lot of you hate me for that mere utterance right there, but if your heart is as invested in your local teams, like if you're a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan, why are you betting on them today? Because you like the number against the Raiders, you know? Like, I'm betting on the Raiders and trying to purchase a win. I don't know. I always go the other way. Maybe it's superstitious, but I purchased a lot of championships over the years. All right, looking ahead at my action. So because of my travel schedule, leaving today for Abu Dhabi and our taping window, can't really give you any week-to-week NFL stuff right now, but I did go into Draftkings Sportsbook, looked at the futures market this morning. I think there are a lot of interesting numbers. So I'm sitting on a Buffalo Bills future ticket at 12-1. Right now, they are plus 550. They are the favorites to win the Super Bowl, which is absolutely incredible. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are plus 600. And not only do I think that they are going to lead the NFL in regular season wins and have a bye, but gosh, I hate to say it because it seems like a prohibitive number, but they were like plus 425 at the beginning of the season or so. I see value on the Buccaneers at plus 600. I really do, to win the whole goddamn thing. Chiefs right now are plus 700 if you care. Los Angeles Rams, as we go through some of the other favorites, plus 850. Baltimore Ravens are 10-1. Arizona Cardinals 11-1. Green Bay Packers 12-1. Dallas Cowboys figure to command some public action, 14-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. Can the Cincinnati Bengals win it all at 100-1? Like, how about some respect on the Fighting Joe Burrows? Most of you will watch this at a time when the Cincinnati Bengals and Baltimore Ravens will have already played their game. But if Cincinnati, as 6.5-point underdogs, can win at Baltimore, 100-1 is going to be 40-1 next week. Can the Cincinnati Bengals win it all at 100-1? Probably not. Derrick Henry, 20-1 to win the NFL MVP. I placed a bet on that. I know running backs sort of hard to come by when it comes to that particular hardware. Dak Prescott and Kyler Murray, the co-favorites right now at plus 450 to win the NFL MVP. And one New England number, adjusted regular season win totals all over the DraftKings Sportsbook. Over under 7.5 wins for the New England Patriots, who are 2-4 right now. Can they win 6 more games? Over pays out at plus 105, which I like. I looked at the schedule. I think Patriots might finish 8-9. So little small wager on the over 7.5 wins. Adjusted regular season win total for your New England Patriots. All right. If you enjoyed this week's segment, let us know on Twitter. Questions and comments are welcome. Use that hashtag AnikDotes if you want to be considered for future episodes, and that includes next week, of course, right back at it for UFC 268. You can follow DraftKings on social media at DraftKings on all channels. For the DraftKings Sportsbook, it is at DK Sportsbook on Twitter, and on Instagram, it is at DraftKings_Sportsbook. And of course, all the UFC 267 coverage you and yours can handle from DraftKings throughout Fight Week. Odds Boost will be there in the DraftKings Sportsbook in a few days in advance of UFC 267. Details on my Instagram page at Jon_Anik. And of course, as we mentioned, this is the rarest of situations. In my time with the UFC, it may never happen again. Back-to-back numbered events, UFC 267, October 30th in Abu Dhabi, and then 1 week later, UFC 268 at the Mecca that is Madison Square Garden. So episode 5 of AnikDotes in about a week, right here on the Anik and Florian Podcast YouTube channel. With that, thank you all for being here. Thanks to Cody at the controls. See you all Saturday night for UFC 267. Blachowicz versus Teixeira, live on ESPN+. Until next time, I'm Jon Anik. Thank you all for watching. Don't text and drive. We'll see you soon.